Hello. So, peaches. Very simple, as you'll see in the video that I've sent you, and if you have a look at any of the other tuition videos out there, they say this has basically just got two parts to it. So, this is the first part. Okay, everything that happens in this part, even though later it goes different timing, it's the same notes. So let's get those notes first. So we've got 6th fret. In fact, everything happens on for this section for this basic riff. Let's say the whole song has two basic riffs. This is the first riff, yeah, and like I just said, then there's two different timings on it. But this riff involves and a riff being just a phrase, a melodic phrase. So a bass line, if you like. This is one of the bass lines of two in the whole thing. So the notes are all on the 6th fret, 4th fret, and 2nd fret. Yeah, and we're going to start on the 6th fret, A string, and I'm going to use my pinky to fret it because the next note is the 6th fret on the E string. So that makes it easier to go from pinky to 3rd finger, yeah, because my hand just fits that way over the fretboard. Rather, you could do it 3rd finger and 2nd finger, but you've got to get that note there. So 6th fret, 6th fret, yeah, A string, E string, and then 4th fret of the A string. Now to get to there, it's quite a stretch if you've just used fingers 2 and 3. Yeah, you're going to have to shift the whole hand to get there. If you use fingers 3 and 4, you still have to shift a bit. You can see that I'm shifting my whole hand, just a bit, but it's much easier movement. I don't have to move so much if I use my finger pinky, 3rd, and then 1st finger here, which is 4th fret of the A string. So that first bit is... Now, picking on this hand, your picking hand, he's not much of a bass player. In terms of technique, it's all about the song. So it's a great bass line, but it's it's not technically anything. So he uses a pick, and that makes it easier to get those fast notes. So if we are using a pick, we do just what we do with a guitar. Bass players are a bit freaked out by this, for using a pick sometimes, because they start with fingers often and then don't know what to do with a pick. But we've been playing guitar for ages, so we know what to do with a pick. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Yeah, that's how you're going to get your notes. So first note down, second note up. Yeah, even though it's on different strings. Down, up, that's just alternate picking, whether you're on the same string or different strings. So we got down, up, down, and then you got this bit, which is fret 6, back to fret 6 on the E string, and it's down, up, down, da 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 da, then up when you go to the 4th fret of the E string, and then 2nd fret of the E string. So down, up, down, just alternate picking with this, yeah? If you're going to use a pick, this is quite a thick one. You need to use a thick one because the strings are so thick, so you don't want to use a thin floppy one. You want to use a pick which doesn't give way when you pluck your strings, so at least 1 millimeter thick. This is about this says 1/14. That would be the very least that I would use, 1/14. In fact, this one, which also says 1/14, but is more like, feels a bit more like 1/20. But that's a good pick to have. It's a Dunlop. It's got an alligator on it. The other one is also Dunlop. It had a tortoise on it. They're both good, and they're both 1.14 millimeters. Okay, so you can do the whole thing with pick, and that's absolutely fine because that's how he does it. But because it's such a simple bass line, and actually I shouldn't say that, because by all means, if you like playing bass with pick, play it with a pick. There's some very good bass players out there who play with a pick. There's nothing wrong with that at all, and you can do things obviously with a pick which you can't do with fingers. The speed. you're not going to be able to do that throughout a whole song with fingers. So sometimes you need to have a pick, especially in punk and rock and I suppose dance sometimes, where you've got just lots of really fast notes, 16th notes or even 32nd notes. There's no way you're going to be doing this, walking fingers thing that fast. And if you can do it that fast, to have the stamina to keep that up, wow, pretty much impossible. So nothing wrong with playing with a pick, and if you enjoy it, do that. But also good to play, obviously good to be able to play with fingers. And so we could use this this bass line, this song, as an exercise for our finger style playing. So if we're doing it with fingers, that first phrase, I can either do this. I can either play with either the first finger or second finger. Let's say I do it with the first, pluck, and then just pull. Yeah, I do my rest stroke. Remember, that's when I pluck the string and my finger comes to rest on the string above. Yeah, and when you're plucking strings, it's not like guitar. I mean, it can be, but generally you don't want to be in this shape, this position. You don't want to be in this hand position, unless you're doing slap and pop, in which case you do. But that's a different thing, yeah? As you can hear, I'm hitting it with the side of my thumb and then pulling away from the string, putting my finger under the string and then pulling away. That's the pop. So slap, pop. And people do that on guitar sometimes, more in country style. It's called chicken picking, to get that real snap of the strings. Typically, unless a bass player is doing that style, that slap pop style, which you find much more in funk, in fact mainly in funk, sometimes in jazz a bit, but most of the time a bass player is doing the rest stroke, yeah? And when he's doing the rest stroke, his hand isn't in this position, it's in this position, more or less. If your hand is in this position, you can see your finger, as its movement, it goes from the ground directly up into the air, yeah? I mean, from the ground to the ceiling, from the floor to the ceiling. You don't want that so much in bass. You want this position, so that when you're plucking, you're actually kind of pushing into the body of the bass at an angle, yeah? You're not doing this and trying to push, because that would be impossible. You're at a sort of, very roughly, 45-degree angle, yeah? And the finger pushes towards the bass. It's pushing basically up and into the body of the bass. That means you're much less likely, if your hand is in this position, and your finger is then, when it plucks, when it pulls back into the palm, it pulls towards the palm, of course, but because of the position of your hand, it pulls upwards and into the body of the bass, yeah? Can you see that? I'm pulling up and also into the body of the bass. So at a sort of 45-degree angle, yeah? And that means you're much less likely to get a finger stuck under the string, because these are big, thick strings. So if you get a finger somehow caught under the string, that's your timing gone, yeah? Because you're not going to be able to pull that string without getting out of time. So instead of the hand being in this position, you want it in this position so that you don't put a finger like underneath the string and then try and snap it. You put it on the string and push towards the body of the bass, yeah? So not underneath and away, unless you're doing slap pop, or not underneath and up, because that's just difficult. It's okay on guitar because they're thinner strings. But for us, on bass, the hand in this position, not here, but here. You might rest your thumb on the pickup, and then you'd have this, still have this sort of position, yeah? Or you might, like me, I've just got my arm resting on the, yeah, like as I would do on an acoustic guitar, got my arm resting on the big bit of the body here, and my hand is just hanging roughly here, and I do actually have my thumb on that, yeah, resting on that low E string. And then when I need to play the E string, my thumb is just here, resting on the body, yeah, or just touching the side of the body, yeah. And I suppose the main rest, yeah, I do rest it here. You can actually feel it kind of slightly pushing into the body, very slightly. I'm not applying force, and I'm resting here, yeah, just with the bit of my forearm. Now, So that was a bit of a digression, but back to, but it is technique, yeah, it's good technique. Come back. Now, this can either be played, this different string part, with one finger doing the rest stroke and then pulling through the next string, so A string, E string, and then the other finger, so say if I do that with my first finger, the other finger, I've done first finger, and then I use my second finger to pluck the next note, because it'd be really, I'd have to move pretty fast to get first finger, and then my first finger back to that A string, whereas if I do first, and then second finger for the A string, yeah? Now when you're doing this bit, you don't want that. You don't want both notes to run to sustain at the same time, yeah? You don't want both notes to keep sounding out. It'll sound too muddy because this is a bass rather than a guitar. So you're going to press down on the A string, and then when you start playing the E string, your little finger comes off the A string, so the note is stopped, yeah? So that you only hear one note at a time. That's one way of doing this bit. Or you can do this, which may be easier. You're just, like a guitar, you're putting your fingers over the strings, or your hand and your fingers over the strings, and look, they pretty much match up, yeah, because this is built for human hands. So if I put my hand such that my first finger is resting on the E string, my second finger has access and is resting on the A string, yeah, or is hovering over the A string, whichever you want. But look, I'm going to do this, use my second finger for the A string, and then my first finger for the E string, and then my, and then my second finger for the A string again. So it would be second, first, second. And then we got the fast bit, da da da. And in terms of fingers on this hand, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Just alternating fingers, yeah? You're walking fingers. Left, right, da da da. Index, middle, index, middle, index. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And again, if you get that angle, this angle, not this, if you're at this, it's much easier for the fingers to get caught under the strings. Now, having said that, you will see the occasional bass player in this position. Yeah, and that just suits some people, but you'll see most people more in this position, so that they're just touching the string. The finger is on the string. It's not underneath it, yeah? It's not below it and pulling up. It's on it and pushing into the body, yeah? And that makes it much easier to not get caught on the strings, so that when, especially when you're doing fast passages like this, 16th notes, the fingers don't get caught on the string, yeah? So you're much more free flowing. And then that's the hit. That I'll stop this video here just for this bit, yeah? Because we got, whoops, sorry. Just one more thing. Obviously, if you want a sustained note, you keep your finger on it. If you want the note to be staccato, or that is stopped, you release the pressure. Yeah, but you don't take the finger off immediately, otherwise this string will ring out. So, yeah, it's just what you do on a guitar. But if you want, sustained, keep the finger on. If you want staccato, release the pressure, but keep the finger there, touching the string. Actually, I'll put this bit on this video, and then you've just got that. Now that's exactly the same notes, just in a different order, but it's all on the 6th fret, 4th fret, and 2nd fret, yeah? So get that in your mind of, really visualize that. 6th fret, 4th fret, 2nd fret, they're all just 2 frets apart, nice boxy shapes, easier to remember. This bit, da, 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 da. Now that was 6th fret A string, 4th fret A string, and we had, in terms of this hand, finger 1 and finger 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm just doing alternating fingers, yeah? and then the same on the E string. Yeah, that is on 6th fret and 4th fret, but then we resolve on the 2nd fret. Yeah, and the timing goes along with the melody, doesn't it? Walking on the beaches, looking at the beaches. And then you're back into then you're back into the riff that we started with. Okay, so hope that's alright. That turned out slightly longer than I thought, but it's because it's got, well, what were we talking about? We were talking about technique, weren't we? Picking technique and plectrum technique. So, okay, hope that's alright.